Good, good. Busy, but yeah, it's good
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be
yeah.
back in speaking.
Yeah. Actually, I attended the morning session in Microsoft, and a lot of people there, and a lot of ex MVPs I saw. So a really amazing stuff they provided. And now we are attending a virtual session. I hope you are doing one more session in Pune session, right? Right?
Yes, it's
Tomorrow.
going to be tomorrow, so I'm going to
Tomorrow,
meet
yeah, it's
Nandi.
going to be hectic session for you, right? Hectic schedule.
Yes, it's a bit hectic, but that's fine because we are MVPs because we like to help the community and that's what
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks, and the
and
stage is all yours. Again, before I proceed, the PCF components are pro code, right? Or we can use for low code also. Any
This
inputs?
is going to be pro code developers I'm going to focus on, but low code developers don't be heartbroken because we are going to go ahead and configure it with basic JavaScript. But and HTML and CSS. This is going to be a building block. So if you are very new to PCF or the Power Apps component framework, just stay with me and I can guarantee you that at the end of the session, you will be quite confident with the framework itself.
Awesome. I love the word heartbroken. I think low code people will enjoy your session for sure. Thank you, and just your stage is all yours, Clavin.
Thank you. So, hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's session. In today's session, we'll be getting started with Power Apps component framework. So, my name is Clavin Fernandes. I'm a Microsoft Business Applications MVP. I'm also managing developer relations and support services for PSPDF Kit. I'm a Power Automate super user. I'm also a speaker, a blogger, and a YouTube content creator. That being said, what is the agenda for today? First and foremost, I will go ahead and explain to you what is PCF and what is code component. Okay, PCF is a framework and it creates code components. What are the advantages of code components? If you have been a Dynamics developer, you might have created HTML resources, right? Why should you not create HTML resources and why should you create PCF components is something that I'm going to touch upon. We'll talk about the tooling that is required for the component development. And finally, we will go ahead and develop the actual component. Okay. So what is a PCF code component? A PCF component or a code component or PCF or Power Apps component framework empowers professional developers and app makers to create code components for model driven and canvas apps. Now, when I say that, understand this, it empowers professional developers, but it also empowers citizen and low code developers. Because once you go ahead and create the component can be reused by citizen developers in their apps, right? And that will empower the citizen developers as well. So, as a pro developer, you write the code, create the code component, but as a citizen developer, you consume that component in your apps. That being said, a code component can be used to enhance the user experience, right? I can hear someone, but that's fine. The code components can be used to enhance the user experience for working with data in their forms. So if you are doing model driven apps or dynamics, forms is a big part of it. Similarly, views and dashboard. If you're doing canvas apps, it's going to be screens, right? Now, most importantly, what is the advantages of code component over HTML resources? Right? HTML resources are very similarly looking to the code component. They look similar because you don't know what happens under the hood. But you can spot the difference in one go. How can you spot the difference? HTML components, when you go ahead and see it in a model driven app, it will go ahead and render last. Okay, that will be the final part that renders on your screen. However, code components render together with the entire form. So that gives a better user experience. In addition, you don't have the context in the HTML uh, web resource. Now, the pro developers in the meeting will tell Clavin you're wrong. No, I'm not wrong. I know that there are hacky ways to get the context, but why use hacky ways when you have the PCF component framework, right? So you get the context. The context will provide you many more things. We'll talk about it when I actually develop the code component. And finally, it has responsive design. So that being said, let's talk about the advantages of the code component. First and foremost, seamless server access via web APIs. Web APIs are used in Dynamics or model-driven apps, and that can be used to go ahead and fetch data from the forms. It has seamless access via web API. Support for modern web practices. I told you that you can write it with basic JavaScript, HTML. I think pro developers will be heartbroken by listening to this, right? Don't worry, pro developers. You can also do React. Okay. React support has also come in. So React is also there. It is optimized for performance, right? You don't need to do a lot of customization in your code. It doesn't mean that you write code which is bad, write code which is good, and it will automatically optimize it. Reusability, as I told you, right? The citizen developers can reuse it again and again in their apps to create beautiful apps out of it. Finally, all the files, CSS, JavaScript, HTML, everything can be bundled into one solution package. That is what is the benefit of the code components. So easy manageability as well. That being said, what are the prerequisites for developing code component? You need Visual Studio Code. I assume everyone has that. Okay, everyone has that. Even if you are a low code developer, you will have Visual Studio Code installed. If you don't have it, please go ahead and install it. LTS version of Node.js, Power Platform CLI, and .NET Build Tools. Those are the prerequisites. I already have the prerequisites installed on my computer because I did not want to waste a lot of time and we need to concentrate on the actual demo. So that being said, what is the demo about? We'll go ahead and understand the project structure. What, as I promised you, right? We'll understand the framework. Once you understand the framework, it will be much, much easier for you to go ahead and write your code component. So we'll understand the framework. We'll understand the file, the manifest file. It's the metadata about your component. We'll talk about it. I'll show you how it actually works out. And then we will implement the PCF code. We'll do it using basic JavaScript and HTML, but feel free to do it with React as well. Then we'll talk about packaging and deploying the code component. We'll deploy the code component in both Canvas and model-driven app. Okay, so that's going to be the demo. I'm going to go ahead and exit, and I'm going to show you what am I planning to actually do. Right, so this is, come on, I need to maximize, and my browser is not responding. Is it because, okay, let me try to once stop sharing and let me try to reshare. It happens to me always. That's why I stop and reshare. Dhruvin, you can see my screen again, right? Okay, I take it as a yes.
Yes, we are able to see.
Yes, we can,
Perfect.
we can.
Perfect. Perfect. So what I have created this week on the 21st, it was my baby's and my wife's birthday. They both share the same birthday. Okay. And she is also a Power Platform enthusiast. So what I did, I went and created a component because I wanted to wish her happy birthday. And I did not want to wish her just like that. I wanted her name and my baby's name to glow, right? Literally glow. So I created a component, a custom code component that glows. And when I say that, we can configure it. Now, we were talking about properties. Now, a custom code component is actually a control. A control has got properties. And if you look at the right, you'll see the properties. If I make changes to the properties, for example, if I change the font size, it should increase the font size, right? If I change the font color to red, it should increase the font color. Just think of it. This is a very basic code component, but we can go ahead and create complex code components as well. But let's focus on the basics and how we can go ahead and create this particular code component. Okay. So what is our use case? To create a component that glows. That being said, let's start building our code component. So what I can do, I can right click first and I'll create a folder, right? The folder goes onto my first screen. I need to drag it in. So and I'll give it a name. Give it a name. Let's rename it. I'll just say Glow PCF. Right? Glow PCF is there and it's here. So what I can do, I can right click show more options, and I can say open in Visual Studio Code. And my code is here, Visual Studio Code is here, perfect. So once I have the Visual Studio Code open, I need to provision the project, right? I need to go ahead and get the framework first down because that's what I'm going to explain you. So we'll go to the terminal, we'll open a new terminal. Perfect, right? Then what if you guys have used pack commands? So pack commands are Power Apps component. I can say it's CLI, Power Platform CLI commands. Those commands are used to go ahead and configure the PCF as well. I just typed in pack because I have Power Platform CLI installed. And here you see the first in the list, you also see PCF, right? You see the PCF. So pack commands are used to configure the PCF. That being said, I can go ahead and type the whole command, but I would like to copy it for now to just save up some time. So I'm going to copy this command. Let's give it a name. Today is the 24th, so I will give it a unique name, 24. And what is the name of my component? The name of my component will also be 24. There are two types of templates. Okay, let's talk about this command itself. Pack, you know what pack is. PCF is the component that we are trying to create. We are initializing it. We are giving it a namespace and we are giving it a name. And then comes the template. The template is the most confusing part. It's a field type template and you can have a data or a grid template. In my experience, I have always used the field template. Okay. The data or the grid is basically used to be in the model driven apps. If you have a grid control, that's where you go ahead and associate this particular control. For this, I think the field type template would be perfect, right? So if you see, I hit enter and with a blink of, you see the provision, it's provision. Perfect, right? Now, what does it tell me? It tells me, okay, Clavin, it's cool. Now go ahead and run npm install. That's why I told you you need Node, right? So I'll hit npm install. Now it will go to the web and it will get all the Node packages down here. Okay, so we need to be patient and then it will go ahead and get our project. So that being said, let's wait and let's look at it getting provision. So while it's getting provision, I don't want to wait. Let's make good use of our time, right? So first and foremost, let's look at the structure of the project. First, you have a folder. The folder is very important because this is where the real magic happens. That is your actual component, right? In the component folder, folder, you will have files like the manifest file. It's the metadata about your control, right? And then you have the index file. The index file is the file where you actually write the code. Okay, the index file is the actual file where you write the code. Now, that being said, in the manifest file, let's start with the manifest file. In the manifest file, you have got first the metadata of the PCF control, the namespace that we provided, the constructor will be also there in the index.ts. Then you have the version. Now, this has come up to me, and I have actually, when I was initially developing the PCF, I always used to think, why is my PCF not getting updated once it's deployed? I then realized that I have to change the version number each time. Or else in my CDS, way back that time it was CDS, now it's Dataverse. In the Dataverse, it will always reference the old solution. So if you are redeploying the solution, my friends, please make sure that you go ahead and increase the version number. Okay, similarly, you have the display name key, and then you have the description key, and the control is standard, right? That is what the third line tells you. Then you have some commented code. It is used for accessing external services. In our case, we are not going to do that. But if you see out here, it's using external domains such as www.microsoft.com. If you're going to do that, yes, you can uncomment this code. Similarly, you can go ahead and see line number 20. Okay, sorry, 21. This is very important. Why is it important? Because if I go back to my PCF control, let me go back out here. This is what the property pane looks like, right? This is the control that I want to render, or these are the properties. These properties or so-called parameters are defined in the manifest file. It's defined here. The one property that comes out of the box is the sample property. Okay. Then a sample property should also have type to it, right? It's a type of single line of text. Similarly, you can have number or a group, right? The display name and the description is self-explanatory. So we'll skip that part, right? But the most important is the usage. So usage means there are two types that you can think about. Usage can be bound or input. Bound means it has to bind to a particular field in CDS, okay, or in a particular field on the form. And input means it can either be bound or you can provide custom input. Now, don't get confused by it as of now. At the end of the demo, we will go ahead and see what does bound and input means. But just remember the usage can be bound or input. And if it's required, true or false, right? That is very, very important. That being said, if you have a group control, you define like this. You'll not most often not define a group control. Okay, not do it very often. But if you want to define it, it's how it is done. That being said, then you have the resource files. The resource files make up the files which are there in the project. The first file is the index file, right? The index file. And what is the order? The order is one. That means it will be rendered first. If you want to have it in sequence, change 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you have the CSS file. If you want to make your component look beautiful, you need CSS. So you can uncomment this and add CSS. We are going to do that in the later part of the demo. Then you have the regex or the resource files, right? These files are used for multilingual support. If you have multilingual support, you can go ahead and do that. For this demo, we'll keep it simple. Then you have the feature usage. Now, this, my friends, is mostly for the model driven apps, not for Canvas apps. One of the most, or I can say two of the most often used resources would be the utility and the web API. These two resources are used to get data from your CDS, right? That is why we go ahead and use it very often. The other resources may be a file picker or maybe get the current position, the geolocation of where the form is being opened or where the app is being opened from, barcode values, capturing image, maybe a camera control image, and then audio, right? But two most used features are the utility and the web API. So this makes up your manifest file, right? The next comes the index file. So before I get into the index file, I told you something, right? I told you let's go ahead and first look at the sample property. So how do I go ahead and run, or how do I go ahead and see what is happening in my project? First, of course, I need to build my project. And Power Apps Component Framework provides a test harness, okay? Provides a harness which you can go ahead and use during development. And how do I go ahead and start it? By putting the command npm start watch. Now what it will do, it will launch the default browser on your computer and it will render my control. Okay, it launched it and it rendered my control. It's the vanilla control. If you see, it has data inputs, that is sample property, and then it has values associated with it. Perfect, right? So this is how a control looks like, a clean slate. Now we are going to go ahead and start building on it. And where do you build your control? You build your control in the index.ts file. So the index.ts file is a class type file. It has a constructor and then it has methods. The methods are something very, very important. The first method that we need to focus on is the init method. Init stands for initialization. As soon as the component initializes, this method will be fired. Okay. The compulsory attribute out here is, or the parameter out here is the context, right? The context. The context will return you values such as parameters from the manifest file and much more, right? It actually returns you the entire property bag as an object. So context is mandatory. You cannot get rid of it. However, the notify output change is actually a callback method. If something changes in your control, then go ahead and it goes ahead and triggers, right? That's the notify output change. State is a session for a user. I have not used states very often, but you might use it. Then the most important part, the container. That's the HTML element that I was talking about. So this is the HTML element that you can go ahead and build on. Next comes the update view. The update view is rendered each time a property in the property bag updates. Okay, I'll again repeat. When something changes in the property bag, that is where it is being fired. So if I go ahead and change out here, let's say, and if I click something updated, that is where this particular method will kick in. That is the update view, right? Get outputs. If you are processing the data and if you are throwing output outside, if you're passing the output outside, that is where the get output will be fired. And then the final method will be the destroy method, which is actually the cleanup method, right? Now, that being said, let's go ahead and start building our code. So give me a minute. Perfect. So first and foremost, let me start with the index.ts itself, right? Let's start with the index.ts. So first and foremost, under the class, I'm going to create a public. Let's create a variable of type HTML element. Yeah, we'll just create a type of HTML element. So I'm creating a variable, right? The first thing first, I'll create a variable. Once I create a variable, you see down here, it is automatically detecting the errors and it is telling me if I'm going wrong. If you see the terminal, I'm still rendering. The browser is still reloading in the background, right? So understand this. This is really cool. That's what I can say. Now that I have initialized this, what I need to do next, let's look at a control. And let's go ahead and build the control itself. I want to add a placeholder where I want to add text. Okay, I want to add a placeholder that adds text. The placeholder is there, right? But I need to initialize it. And where should I initialize it? I should initialize it in the init method. So I'll say this dot glowing text is equals to, and I'll take the document element and I'll say create an element because I need to go ahead and put it in, right? I need to append it. And I want to give it a type div. So what I'm doing, I'm just creating an element of type div. Now that I have created the element, I want to go ahead and set the inner text of the element. Understand this. This is basic JavaScript. So how will I do that? This dot glowing text dot inner HTML, and then I can just say something like Clavin Fernandes. Yes, guys, I'm obsessed with my name. So let's keep it this way, right? At this point, if I go back to my control, and if I try to refresh it, nothing is coming up. Why nothing is coming up? The point is I have created it, but I have not appended it to the main container. And how will I do that? How will I append it? I will append it by putting in container dot append child. And I'll say, what should I append? This dot glowing text, because that's the only thing there on my screen. So this is how I have gone ahead and appended it. Now, if you see, my friends, it has been rendered. Basic JavaScript, basic HTML, right? Now it has been appended. That is perfect. That's pretty good news. But now this says sample property. It says sample property. I want it to be glowing text, right? Or glow text or something like that. I need to go ahead and configure this. I need to configure the property bag. If you have been paying attention, it can be configured in where? In the manifest.input XML file. So what I'll do is that I'll change the name of the sample property to glow text. I'll change the display name and I'll change the description key, right? I leave it single line of text, leave it bound, and leave it required. That's perfect. Now, if I go back and look at my control, wow, it updated in real time. It's glow text now. But now, if I type in my baby's name, Dhruvin, it's not getting updated. Wow, how should I update it? That's the big question. Again, where do I do it? This time I do it in index.tx, right? So in the index.ts, I need to update it. So to update it, let's go ahead and first get the properties from the property bag. The first thing is to get the properties from the property bag to this particular index.ts method. How can I do that? This can be done using the context, right? So I can go ahead perhaps and use the context to query the property bag. It tells you here itself the entire property bag is available through the context object. And we are going to make use of this context object. So let's make use of the context object. Let me actually add a condition, because if it's blank, then it becomes a little bit tricky. So context dot parameter dot, okay, glow text, it's IntelliSense is your friend. So always use IntelliSense. And I want the raw inputs, right? If it is there, right, then go ahead and set this property inside. So I want to set this property. So I'll cut and I'll paste. And I don't want to hard code it. I want to set it dynamically, right? So I'll copy it and I'll paste this. Now, if I go back to my test harness, it loads, right? It loads. But however, if I go ahead and type in Fernandes, it does not refresh. But however, if I refresh the whole container, because it reinitializes, the property is being visible. We don't want that. We want to update it on a fly. So what I can do, I can just take this method, I'll copy it and I'll paste it. I'll paste few lines of code out in the update method. Once I go ahead and put it in the update method, it should do the trick, right? So I'm searching for my browser. So here it is. So let's go ahead and type now Dhruvin, right? But my wife will kill me because I misspelled my baby's name. So it's Dhruvin, Dhavin, right? So Dhruvin, cool. Now we have also updated the property. Now the property is being updated when the property in the property bag gets updated. For example, I'll reword it. Sorry, I said property a lot of time. Now the screen gets updated when the property in the property bag gets updated. Okay, this is the right thing that I can talk about. So now this is cool, right? This is super cool. What next? Let's go back to a control and let's actually look at a control one more time. Now what I want to do, I want to go ahead and configure other properties in the property bag, such as text, text weight, and color. And how can I do that? I can go to the input, I can go to the manifest file, and I can do that, right? So let me actually copy code, because if I type it, it will take forever and you guys will get bored with it. So I'm going to copy some code. I'm going back to the manifest file, and let me paste it here. Right. So let's see, the property have been pasted and this looks good. If I go back to my browser, I have got all the properties in here, which is text weight, which is color, etc., etc. So perfect. So we are right on track. Similarly, I can go to index.tx and I can go ahead and just copy paste this code again and again and change the property name. For example, instead of glow text, I can say, what is the next property name? Text color, right? And text color out here, and I want to pass in raw text color, right? So I can change the properties here as well. I'm going to again copy paste some code because I want to save on time. Okay, so let's copy paste some code out here. So I've copy pasted text size, I have copy pasted text weight, etc. Similarly, I can take this whole bunch and I can copy it in the update view, because I want these properties to be updated whenever something changes. Now it's the moment of truth, because trust me, for me, copy paste is my enemy. Okay, it's not my friend sometimes. So let me go ahead and change the text weight. Let's change it to 70. Let's see if the weight actually goes ahead and increases. Okay, it's text weight or it's text size. Okay, it's text size, Clavin. It's not text weight. So text size, if I put it to 70, whoa, it's a bigger text. So the property bag and the code changes that we made are looking good, okay? Are looking very, very good, by the way. So this is how a control will look like. But a control looks boring, right? There's nothing glowing. We want it to glow, right? If I go ahead and change the weight of the text, it will become bold, but it's not glowing. How can I go ahead and make it glowing? Huh. So as I told you, for making the text glowing, who is your friend? How do you make it glow? How do you make your HTML look beautiful? Using CSS. And that's a resource, right? So this is the resource that we need. So I'll just cut, I can just actually copy this resource and I'll just paste it in here, right? So this is the resource that we need, which is good, but the resource is not found. That's what it tells me because it's searching in this location. So I need to create this particular resource. So what does it need? I first need to go ahead and create a folder. So I need to create a folder inside the glowing text component 24 folder. So I'll create a new folder and I'll name it CSS. That's what it tells me. Perfect. Inside the folder, I need to go ahead and create a file. So I'll say new file and I'll say .css, and that's where the file is getting created. CSS is looking all good. Now, next, what I do, I'm going to copy paste some CSS. Okay. Now, this CSS is very basic. It tells me there's a glow element, it needs an animation of type glow, and then it should change from this color, that is pink color, and flash with these colors, right? That's what it is. Simple little animation in place. Now let's go back to our Firefox. It tells me it failed to load. That's not good. That's bad. So what I'll do a Control C, do Control Y. I'll go ahead and try to build it again. And I'll close it. I'll close this browser for now. Let's hope that the demo gods are with me and the code actually goes ahead and succeeds, right? Because you never know, right? So this is good. It actually compiled. And if I click on npm start watch, let's see if now it renders, right? I'm waiting. Come on. Okay, doc. So, wow, it actually goes ahead and renders, but it's not rendering the CSS. That's not good. So let me go back and let me look at it. So it's glow.css and here it is manifest. So CSS will be rendered at once. So if I click on save, so let me look at the folder structure. It looks good. And then let me actually go back and let me refresh. It's still not glowing. So there's something wrong. So just bear with me. It was glowing CSS 24, glowing CSS 24.component.order1. It looks good. Okay, live
Do you
troubleshooting.
have that glow element over there? So what if you have glow
Ah,
element?
wow. Right. We did
In
not
CSS?
add the element in the index.ts. Who said this? Perhaps it's a great catch. Who said this? What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Shiva. Shiva Koteswara Sadhu.
Hi Shiva. Shiva
Hi.
saved my demo. Okay, so a big
Yeah.
kudos to Shiva. He's absolutely right. I did not add the element in my index.ts. Right? This is what I was missing. And thanks to Shiva, okay, I'll say thanks to Shiva, I can go ahead and add the element on initialization. So I can say this dot, let me think, glowing text, right? And how do I add style? So style dot, how do I add style? Class list, Shiva, right? I think class list, or I can directly add the class list, right? So class list dot add. And then I can add this element. So Shiva is I would not call him a lifesaver, but a demo saver for me. Okay, so that's good. And thanks to Shiva, now our code component glows, right? Our code component glows. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Or else I would have been searching. I was actually opening another project to see if it actually is there, what actually happened with my code. But yeah, Shiva saved the day. I can actually change the color to yellow and it looks good. So this is our code component, right? This is how our code component looks. Our code component is ready. Now, what do we want to do? What do we want to do next? We want to go ahead and package the code component. So Control Y, right? That looks good. Now, to package the code component, I first will have to create a folder. So I'll say mkdir and I'll say solutions. I'll do cd. I should type in S or else it will take the whole day. Solutions, perfect. Next command is what I want to do. I want to go ahead and initialize a solution because what really happens out here, the PCF control actually is a solution. It is packaged in a solution. That's why it's easy to manage. All the CSS, all the JavaScript, all the node packages will be in a solution. So I can say pack, and you can already guess the command. It's pack solution. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it in and hit enter. This initialized my solution, right? This initialized my solution. Now what I want to do, I want to go ahead and add the reference. I need to go ahead and add the reference to this project. The solution is there, but I still need to add the reference to it. So just type in path. And what is the path? The path is this particular thing. That's perfect. And I'll hit enter. Okay, project solution is being added to the Dataverse project. Awesome. Next, what I want to do now, I wanted to go ahead and reference developer tools in my Visual Studio Code, but you know company policies, right? So I could not do that. So I'm using a different instance of the developer tools. So sorry for that. But yeah, this is my developer tools. So it's here, it's in my, okay, this path looks good. And here I can do an MS build, right? MS build. First time you do the MS build, T build, restore, but then down the line, you don't need to go ahead and do you just do the MS build, right? That's all I can say. Now that you have done the MS build, you might have seen that the folder structure actually went ahead and changed, right? To some extent. So if you look at solutions, in the solutions you have bin and you have a solution package. And this, my friend, is the package that we are going to go ahead and upload into our environment. So I have an environment here and I'm going to import that solution in this particular environment, right? So I can click on import solution. I can click on browse and it's on desktop and it's known as glowtext.pdf. It's this. And it should be back. I'm going too fast. Clavin, slow down. Okay, I need to slow down. So solutions bin debug solution.zip, right? You go to the make.powerapps.com and import the solution into your Dataverse, right? While this is getting imported, right? While this is getting imported, if you are using the component in the Canvas app, you need to go ahead and configure your Canvas apps to go ahead and use the component. So I'll make a duplicate of it. And then I'll show you where you go ahead and actually activate it. So I'll click on settings. I guess it's under admin center. And understand this. This can be scoped to an environment level. So at the environment level, you can go ahead. If you're doing it in test, just activate it for test. For model-driven apps, this is activated by default. Okay, for model-driven apps, it's activated by default. So that being said, let's go to the environments, right? Let's select the environment that I'm working on. By the way, what's the environment? It's the default environment. So I'm going back here in the environments portal. And I'll select the default environment and we'll check. I select it and click on settings. And under product, and I think it's under features. I'm hunting it, sorry for that. Yeah, it's correct. It's under features. And here, my friends, you see, you need to activate this feature for the Canvas apps. Now, understand this. For the model-driven apps, you don't need to do it. It's just for the Canvas apps. In the meantime, our solution has got imported. And next, what you need to do, you need to publish all the customizations in your project. Perfect, right? So that's what you can do. So that being said, I'm losing screens now. So I don't need this. I'll get rid of it. And I'll go back here, right? It's getting published, and once it gets published, it will be available in for your pro developer, for your citizen developers to go ahead and use it. So it's published. Let's go ahead and see if we can use this in our Canvas app. So I can say demo Canvas. I can click on create. Skip. It's a control, as I said. So new control. I'll say get code components. Here you see code components now, and we have glowing 24. That's what we created. I can directly import it out here. I go to the code components. I double click on it. And here, my friends, I can type in my name this time, or maybe we'll say Shiva's name. Shiva, thank you. Right? Shiva, thank you. And we'll give it a big font size because we want to thank him with all my heart, right? Because he saved the demo. And then I'll say color yellow, right? So we have glowing text out here. Isn't this awesome, right? Similarly, you can add the same control in the model-driven app. So I don't have model-driven app in that environment. So I'm going ahead and going to show you something in another environment where I have a model-driven app configured. So just bear with me. Okay, first I'll go to make.powerapps.com. How to use it on a model-driven app? That's what I want to show you. So I'll say leave, go back. Yes, no problem. Let me go to tables first. Okay, first I'll search for the app. I hope that I'm in the right environment. So it's named as job hunting. Okay, this is the correct environment. So tables, custom table, and in the custom table, I have a job table, so that's good. I can go ahead and edit it. Let's say edit it in new tab. Okay, should just click on it perhaps. Yeah, I should just click on it, not edit it. And then comes the forms because we are going to go ahead and bind it to a control. And I'll click on edit and I'll click on edit in new tab. So I'm going to bind this control to the main form. Okay, main form in my model driven app. So just bear with me. I'll quickly go to the classic settings, right? And let me go ahead and bind it to a control, right? So I'll say done. Let me go ahead and open the app to just show you that there's nothing in there. If I just say play, active jobs, Power Platform Developer. Let's say that we want to bind it to the title control, right? So if I go here, this is the title control. In the title control, I can click on control and I can activate the glowing text component. So if you see out here, the first input was bound, right? The first input was bound. That is why it is bound to the field that that I have inserted it on. That is the title. Then comes the input type control. As I told you, input type control can be bound or we can bind it to a field or we can go ahead and present custom values. That is why you see that I can specify a text size. If you don't remember it, I can show you the manifest file and it will go ahead and you will understand it, right? So here you see the usage, bind versus input. Bound means what? Bound means it's bound to a control. Input means you can edit it and provide custom controls and provide custom values to it, right? I can click OK. I need to again save it, right? I need to save it. Come on, save. Is it saving? Come on, give me some feedback. Okay, let's see. Let's hope that it's saved. I'll just go ahead and publish. Publish gives me a prompt, so that's good. Maybe it's using pop-up service, right? So let's wait, let's wait, let's wait. Huh. Okay, it seems to have published. I don't trust it because it did not give me the save prompt. I'll go ahead and I'll not do any troubleshooting as of now. Empty cache and hard reload. Let's see this. Let's see this. Let's see this. Come on, please work. Whoa, it worked. So congratulations, right? First and foremost for everyone who is there in this session. You have created your own custom control. Your own custom control in Power Apps component framework within by using basic HTML, JavaScript, and you also understood the framework. You went ahead and used the solution in your model driven app as well as the Canvas app, right? And all that you learned was learned in 45 minutes. Now, there's a question that comes up to me often. Clavin, do you only create glow control? No, I create more, right? I create more. Another place where you can go hunting is the PCF gallery. If you are uh, if you're looking for something, you should first go and check if it's available in the gallery, right? Gallery has got n number of controls out here, right? From attachments, audio, etc., etc. I don't know what Australia is, but you see there are multiple controls, including HTML controls. So you can download this package, build it, and use it in your particular solution, in your Power Apps environment. That is one thing to remember. If you have an awesome idea, right? Submit an idea. If you are not a pro developer, please submit your idea, right? This is where you can go ahead and the pro developers will pick it up and they will go ahead and create it for you. So this is what you can do. Now, in addition to that, I have also created some basic controls in for my company, right? So one of the basic control that I can show you is I spoke with a customer, right, a few days back. And being a Microsoft MVP, I always get feature request. And the feature request came from a user. He told me, Clavin, I want to use a control in my Power Apps component framework. I said, awesome. What control do you need? He said, Clavin, you are in the PDF company. I want a PDF viewer. He told me, like, let's take an example. This is the boring PDF viewer in that is provided by out of box, right? That is provided out of the box. They wanted something different. They wanted something with which they can add annotations. So what did we do? We created a PDF viewer with which you can go ahead and add complex controls, right? This is a complex control that you can go ahead and create, right? So let it load, give it a minute, and it's actually using WASM behind the scene. So it's actually, we have created a PDF viewer which actually goes ahead and renders. So if you see, I can go ahead and maybe add a signature out here. Let's say I want to add a signature. I can go ahead and actually type in a signature directly. And we provided it to the audience, right? This is ideas, right? You think about ideas. I already see, yes, using PCF, we went ahead and did this, right? These are ideas. I added signature, and at this point, I can go ahead and save it, and I can go ahead and pushed this back into SharePoint. Now understand this. Behind the scene, it's using node modules, no, it's using WASM, right? But just understand this. If you understand the framework, you can go ahead and build controls which are amazing. Similarly, we also shipped a control to one of our customers, which actually wants to render the control in model driven apps. So as of now, everything is slow, which actually renders the control in model driven apps. So let me actually try to refresh my browser and let me actually try to open it once. Come on. Right? It's trying to render, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to tell you. We have created controls. You can create your own controls. You can go ahead and give it to your power users and they can reuse it. So I think that's it. But before I conclude my session, I think I have some time. So why not go ahead and say a big thank you to Aro, Dhruvin, Abhinav, Prince, and Rajendra for organizing this event, for inviting me to this event, and most importantly, the people who have gone ahead and stayed back, listened to me patiently. I hope that you learned something new today. I hope. and you'll go back and create your own Power Apps component frameworks. And that being said, scan this code. You have a chance to win swags. I have already scanned it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clavin, for this wonderful session.
Yeah, you're welcome. I lost my teams now. It's like just bear with me. Okay, I lost my teams, but that's fine. I think I wanted to share my camera. But yeah, so any questions? As I told you, first and foremost, the best place to go ahead and see if there's a control out there is actually to go in the gallery and try to search for it. If there is no control, only then go ahead and create one. Don't reinvent the wheel. I'll tell you a trick. Okay, I'll tell you a trick. You are in the session. What I do, I go to the gallery and look at various code samples, right? And I rebuild it with reference to my requirement. Okay. I see, because those are the best practices that are being done, right? You need to understand this. Those are the best practices. And those best practices, you can go ahead and get it in your apps. So instead of going ahead and starting from a scratch, always go there. If you want a combo box, see if there's a combo box there. If there is if you might find a combo box, I think there is a combo box in this particular uh, in the PCF gallery. Similarly, when it came to this particular control that I was talking about, right, which my browser freezed, this control is something that I learned from the gallery. I went and created this control, but I found few things that can make my control look better. I found it from the gallery. So gallery is always your friend. You can also post ideas, right? So always go ahead and do that. Any other questions for me?
I think, Clavin, there is one question in the chat window.
Okay.
It is related. Can we create complex control like person column or multi combo box using PCF?
Okay, let's go ahead and first check the gallery if there is already, because I assume there should be one. So you are looking for maybe person control. By the way, yes, the short answer should be yes, because what really happens when it comes to, you have web APIs, you have got HTML, JavaScript, and you should be able to go ahead and do that. There's a file picker control. One of the controls, that's color picker, I guess. But yeah, there should be one, and it should be possible. I can get more information for you maybe later, right? Whose question is this from? Maybe you just add me on LinkedIn and I can personally send you more details. I can actually point you to a sample, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. If we still have few minutes, so 3 more minutes. If anyone
Okay.
has any question, feel free to unmute yourself and directly ask to Clavin if you wish.
Where is Aro? I didn't hear him.
Arrow just
Stepped
he
out,
just
step
have
out
some
for
yeah he just have some call, so he just step out.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem.
Aro would have definitely have many questions for you. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
why I asked, where is Aro? Because Aro has
Aro
questions.
stepped out.
Yeah, but yes, this was a small little thing. The way we add within the gallery or the control forms, we can add controls to the list. Yeah. So I'll try to answer those questions as well. But yeah, I think I'm on time and I
Sure.
think the next speaker is waiting.